Have you ever wondered why some relationships feel effortlessly rewarding while others leave you exhausted and confused? What if I told you the secret lies not in how much you give, but how wisely you protect your emotional energy? In today's captivating story, we're diving deep into the subtle power dynamics, psychological mind games, and essential boundary-setting techniques that determine how people truly see and respect you. Throughout this journey, you'll discover practical strategies to immediately upgrade your confidence, master the art of saying no, and transform yourself from a passive participant to the respected leader of your own story. But here's the twist. The ending reveals something unexpected. A truth so simple, yet so overlooked, it could dramatically reshape your personal and professional relationships forever. Curious to uncover this powerful secret? Don't miss a moment, because the best insights await at the finish line. And remember, if you appreciate real-life wisdom, deeper conversations, and practical self-improvement advice, subscribe now to our channel, your trusted guide toward a happier, healthier, and more empowered you. Life often unfolds in curious ways that leave us seeking balanced, meaningful connections. We might not always realize it, but within human interactions, especially romantic or potentially romantic ones, there's an undercurrent of unspoken communication that can greatly influence whether two individuals are drawn to each other or pushed apart. For instance, consider the way someone takes the lead in suggesting where to go for a meal, or how certain people confidently navigate a group setting. These seemingly subtle behaviors often speak volumes about what society terms masculine energy, or more specifically, a sense of grounded confidence and self-assuredness. While the phrase dominant masculine energy might trigger mental images of aggression or stereotyping, it's more nuanced. It's about healthy leadership, self-respect, and the ability to create a feeling of security for oneself and the people around them. In many social encounters, one might wonder who is taking the lead here. Is it the person who keeps the conversation flowing, or the one who comfortably initiates plans without constantly seeking approval? When individuals talk about dominant traits, they are not necessarily focusing on extreme alpha male posturing or stereotypical bravado such as riding a motorcycle in a leather jacket or puffing out one's chest at every opportunity. Instead, what most people, women in particular, according to popular dating advice, find alluring is a subtle sense of confidence, stability, and respect. True strength is not about crushing others' opinions or boasting that you alone hold the key to every problem. It's the quiet certainty you exhibit through your decisions and the way you treat yourself and those around you. Another critical aspect of this so-called masculine energy is the willingness to set boundaries. This involves more than just knowing what you want. It requires an understanding of the behavior you will or will not accept in a relationship or social interaction. These boundaries reflect your level of self-regard. If someone repeatedly cancels plans at the last minute, for instance, a person displaying confidence and self-respect will decide that this behavior is not acceptable and will be ready to walk away if necessary. This approach isn't about playing games or brandishing ultimatums in an attempt to force compliance. It's about recognizing that you, just like anyone else, deserve respect and reliability. When people sense that you won't settle for less, they tend to treat you with greater care. Yet there is confusion regarding what it means to be dominant. Society is filled with images of big, muscular individuals who roar their opinions at the slightest provocation, but that doesn't always correlate with emotional strength or unwavering confidence. In reality, one can find physically imposing individuals who fold under the smallest amount of emotional tension. Conversely, there are those who appear unassuming perhaps quieter, maybe less physically intimidating, but who hold an unshakable personal standard and mental fortitude that is undeniably attractive. This discrepancy demonstrates that being masculine or dominant isn't about outward appearances alone. It's about a cultivated state of mind and heart. The misconception arises because many of us conflate appearance with substance. We might see someone sporting tattoos, large biceps, or an imposing frame and assume they automatically embody those traits of resolute confidence or alpha presence. However, the moment a tough-looking person consistently abandons their own boundaries, dissolves into tears without self-awareness, or becomes unsteady when situations call for resilience, it's clear they haven't mastered the inner equilibrium that truly underscores strong masculinity. What we are really attracted to in other people isn't always the facade. It's the essence of how they manage challenges, articulate their desires, and carry themselves through the world. There is a well-known analogy drawn from the animal kingdom, the kitten and the tiger. People often say that the tiger commands more respect because it is far more difficult to tame. In a relationship context, if you present yourself as someone who can be easily swayed, molded, or manipulated, you inadvertently diminish the level of respect others might grant you. This isn't to suggest that you should be unyielding or devoid of empathy. Rather, it's about maintaining that delicate balance between kindness and self-protection. While it's healthy to show compassion, it becomes problematic if you let others walk all over you. A kitten in the social or dating sphere is prone to every whim of the environment, but a proverbial tiger stands firm, evaluating situations objectively and acting in alignment with their personal values. Within dating scenarios, men especially feel pressure around demonstrating dominance. Movies, magazines, and even well-intentioned friends might encourage them to show interest, act tough, or keep a conversation going at any cost. Yet, the deeper secret to authentic presence lies in measured participation and a strong sense of self. For example, if you're at a social gathering and speaking with someone you find engaging, it might feel counterintuitive to walk away from that conversation when things are going well. Yet sometimes stepping away to chat with others or handle your own plans can actually spark curiosity and appreciation from the person you just left. The principle here is that you are not reliant on the other person's validation to enjoy the event or to feel secure about yourself. This leads to the concept often referenced as the power of walking away. It's surprisingly effective because it demonstrates independence and suggests that you're not clinging to a single outcome. When you remain in control of your own happiness and social life, it forces others to acknowledge that you have a life beyond seeking their constant approval. It's an illustration that you value your own time and you don't need to remain glued to them in order to feel worthy. For someone who is used to an abundance of attention, this can be unexpectedly appealing. It prompts them to see you as someone who has more going on than just winning their favor, which can elevate the level of respect and attraction. One of the best real-world tactics to reinforce this sense of healthy detachment is to carefully manage how much interest you display. This doesn't mean you play mind games or stoop to manipulation. It's more about being genuine in what engages you and what doesn't. If a person begins to share something that genuinely strikes you as unethical, boring, or disagreeable, you don't have to feign enthusiasm. For instance, if your conversation partner nonchalantly describes how they cheated in a situation, maybe academically or in a previous relationship, and you find that behavior unacceptable, you should feel empowered to express disapproval or, at minimum, not lavish praise on it. By politely but firmly standing your ground, you signal that your sense of morality and self-respect overrides any desire to pander for a fleeting connection. A similar principle applies to repeated flakiness or disrespect. If someone keeps canceling on you without good reason, or always responds with maybe when you try to make plans, you demonstrate your value by clarifying that you won't continue wasting time on indefinite answers. This can be done without ultimatums or anger. Perhaps you calmly say something like, "I understand schedules can be busy, but I don't continue conversations or interactions when things remain unclear after repeated attempts. Let's reconnect if our schedules align in the future." By subtly standing up for yourself, you show that a certain standard of respect is required to remain in your world. This approach can lead to two outcomes. Either the person realizes they need to step up and offer more respect, or they vanish, saving you the headache of constant uncertainty. Alongside walking away, setting consistent boundaries is the next building block of true confidence. A boundary is more than a preference. It's a personal rule that safeguards your focus, your values, and your mental health. If you need a certain amount of uninterrupted time each day to remain productive, for example, you enforce it. Keep your phone on. Do not disturb. Inform people that you'll respond after a certain time, or decline gatherings that break your concentration. The idea is that your life retains its own shape with or without any single person's involvement. This can be extremely compelling to others because it makes them realize you stand firmly behind your priorities. Boundaries can manifest in various ways. Some are logistical, like designated me time every morning before the day's obligations begin. Others might be moral boundaries, like refusing to condone or participate in dishonest behavior. Yet others might revolve around personal finances, such as not lending large sums of money to a new acquaintance or not overly indulging in financial generosity just to win someone's approval. Having such boundaries does not make you rigid or uncaring. Rather, it shows you appreciate both yourself and the other person enough to set clear lines of acceptable behavior and personal comfort. Respect begets respect, and when someone sees that you treat yourself well, they are far more likely to treat you with the same level of regard. Saying no when necessary is another fundamental practice. While it might seem counterintuitive in a culture that values being agreeable, the ability to reject requests, favors, or demands that compromise your well-being is key to maintaining self-respect. Much like the anecdote of a friend who always covers unpopular shifts at work just to stay in the good graces of colleagues, consistently saying yes might win superficial affection, but it rarely inspires genuine respect. Real respect emerges when you show that your sense of self-worth and your time carry weight. People who struggle to say no often end up feeling resentful, overburdened, and unappreciated. Another everyday example involves the typical party scenario, where someone asks you to hold their belongings like a coat purse or a bag while they wander off to socialize for 20 or 30 minutes. While it might be okay to help for a brief moment or under special circumstances, constantly ending up as someone's personal coat rack or bag carrier can create a dynamic where you are subtly relegated to a less respected role. The stronger move might be to politely decline, "I'd rather not hold your things while you're away. I'd like to mingle as well, or grab a drink, or step outside for some air." Such a stance is not rude if done tactfully. It simply establishes that you aren't there to be used, that your hands and your time are not infinitely at another's disposal without mutual understanding or appreciation. It's important to realize that refusing certain requests or not always bending to someone else's schedule can be a sign of emotional maturity. People often talk about compliance tests in which someone consciously or unconsciously pushes you to see whether you'll conform to their wishes at the expense of your own. When you stand firm in a situation that compromises your personal boundaries or moral standards, you're showing that your sense of self is intact, and that in turn usually increases their respect for you. Even if they initially act frustrated or disappointed, there's a deeper acknowledgement that you value your own well-being. Furthermore, in romantic or potential romantic relationships, learning to say no can enhance attraction for both parties. A partner who respects themselves enough to speak up, voice discomfort, or decline an invitation fosters trust and admiration because it shows they will also have the courage to be honest and uphold values in more serious situations. Although no is often framed as a negative response in practice, it preserves and upholds positivity in a relationship by preventing simmering resentment or slow erosion of boundaries. Over the long term, a couple or a friendship built upon mutual respect, where both people feel safe to set limits, stands a far better chance of flourishing than one built on silent submission. In addition to walking away, setting boundaries, and occasionally saying no, there is an important dimension of interpersonal interaction that involves how we give or withhold approval. Many people fall into the habit of using positive remarks too quickly to establish rapport. In principle, a friendly compliment or genuine admiration is a beautiful gift to offer someone. Yet if given indiscriminately, such praise can dilute its own impact. Picture a first date scenario where each time your partner mentions any activity, no matter how mundane, you respond with excessive approval. While being pleasant is generally good, overdoing it can lead the other person to feel that your affirmations lack authenticity. This phenomenon may be magnified when a person is obviously trying to impress, driven by a fear of rejection. They might say, "That's so cool, you do yoga," or "I love that it's the best thing ever," without genuinely reflecting on whether they resonate with the interest. Overzealous agreement might make you seem too eager or lacking in personal identity. By taking a more neutral or inquisitive stance, that's interesting. How did you get into that? You encourage a deeper level of dialogue, where both parties can discover if they truly share interests rather than just performing them for the sake of rapport. Closely related is the concept of not constantly qualifying yourself. If someone mentions they dislike certain traits or behaviors in others, it can be tempting to immediately declare, "Oh, I'm not like that at all. I do XYZ that's totally different," in order to appear more appealing. Yet ironically, this can backfire. Overqualification often comes across as either insecurity or desperation. By relentlessly trying to distance yourself from negative attributes, others may have you place yourself in a position of chasing approval rather than allowing the other person to form their own impression of you. Confident individuals are unafraid to admit if there's an aspect of themselves that might conflict with someone else's preferences. If they like watching sports on Sundays and a potential partner comments, "My ex watched sports all day, and it was so annoying," the confident response might be, "I see how that would be frustrating if you never spent time together, but in my case, it's my favorite way to unwind on a Sunday. That's just part of who I am." This doesn't mean you refuse to compromise in any relationship, but you make it clear that you won't hide parts of yourself out of fear. By doing so, you protect your integrity and allow the other person to genuinely see if they can be compatible with you. Ultimately, being dominant in a healthy sense is about carrying yourself with an aura of self-respect and extending the same respect to others. Where many get confused is with the notion of dominating another person through fear, intimidation, or constant control. True dominance, if we even need to use that term, comes from a place of emotional security, not brute force. You know your worth, your likes and your dislikes, and you give people room to exhibit theirs without bending yourself into pretzels for acceptance. This fosters a healthy give and take where each person respects the other's space and individuality. A parallel concept emerges in business or career environments which might not seem obviously related to dating at first glance. Yet the same underlying principle of self-assuredness applies. Colleagues are often drawn to those who speak up with conviction, not because they are necessarily loud or aggressive, but because they reflect competence and a clear sense of purpose. Think of a business meeting where someone says, "I'd love to help, but I'm committed to completing the budgeting project this afternoon, so I won't be available until tomorrow." Such a statement is both respectful, it acknowledges the request, and simultaneously asserts a boundary completing one's current priority. This consistent approach to respecting your own time and energy translates across all relationships. People learn that you say what you mean, and mean what you say, enhancing credibility and trust. Dominance isn't limited to romantic interest either. Even in platonic friendships, people gravitate toward those who appear self-assured because it suggests they will not be a liability in challenging situations. A friend who respects their own boundaries is often better at respecting yours and is less likely to be emotionally draining or manipulative. If you communicate clearly, "I can't talk right now, but I'll call you in a couple of hours," and follow through, you build reliability. Over time, these seemingly small moments of honesty and boundary setting create the bedrock for deeper mutual trust. Moreover, the more you embody these traits, the more you attract similar energies. Just as negativity tends to beget negativity, a calm self-confidence often draws others who are equally grounded. In relationships, this synergy can be very powerful, as both individuals maintain lives, interests, and responsibilities outside the relationship, while also prioritizing the bond they share. There's less room for codependency or toxic behaviors because neither individual is pressured to become someone they're not. Respect grows organically when both parties uphold their standards without dismissing the other's value. To summarize part 1, stepping into a healthy form of masculinity or confidence hinges on 5 foundational qualities. 1. Showing a readiness to walk away when treated poorly. 2. Establishing and maintaining boundaries. 3. Being comfortable saying no. 4. Practicing measured approval and honesty. And 5. Avoiding the habit of constantly qualifying yourself. Each of these behaviors is underpinned by the conviction that you are worthy of respect. In daily practice, these principles help create a dynamic where you can simultaneously protect your self-esteem and show genuine care for others. By neither fawning for approval nor demanding subservience, you position yourself as someone who is confident, stable, and authentic, a combination that tends to be highly magnetic in personal, professional, and social spheres. Yet before we transition to part 2, which will delve deeper into 7 psychological strategies for rebalancing dynamics and 9 archetypes of individuals to trust cautiously, it's crucial to reiterate that the most fundamental aspect of presenting yourself in a strong, confident manner is to first believe in your own worth. Without genuine self-acceptance, any outward attempts to demonstrate dominance or confidence will read as artificial, at best manipulative, at worst. When a person's actions consistently arise from a place of self-awareness and sincerity, it resonates more powerfully than any facade of bravado ever could. Consider how these elements manifest in everyday situations. If you're making weekend plans with someone who repeatedly remains vague, you hold the reins by expressing a clear preference, such as "I'm free until 4 p.m. on Saturday." But after that, I have other commitments. Rather than chasing for a commitment, you make your stance known, effectively giving them the opportunity to meet you in a mutually beneficial arrangement. If they fail to do so, you still have your schedule intact and your sense of self-respect untouched. This is not about punishing them. It's about preserving your time and emotional balance. It's also worth noting that such an approach has wide-ranging implications for your mental well-being. Individuals who overextend themselves in relationships, be they romantic, familial, or friendships, often suffer from higher levels of stress, anxiety, and even resentment. Consistently subjugating personal needs or ignoring boundaries is a fast track to burnout. From the outside, people might perceive them as overly eager or nice, but on the inside, these individuals are running on empty. Harnessing the power to walk away or say no when appropriate isn't just a strategy for attraction or respect. It's a method of self-care. Finally, keep in mind that embracing these principles isn't about adopting a cold or callous attitude. You can be warm, caring, and empathetic, while still maintaining your stance on critical values and boundaries. An individual who is firmly rooted in these values can enter relationships, romantic or otherwise, without losing themselves to the other person's whims. In fact, they're more likely to form healthier connections, because mutual respect is established as a foundation from the very start. Rather than engaging in a tug-of-war for control, both people can flourish independently while finding common ground. In Part 2, we will transition from discussing these foundational traits of balanced masculine energy to a more detailed exploration of strategic approaches in interpersonal dynamics. We'll examine 7 cruel or tough-minded psychological methods that can help flip the script when you're not receiving the respect or acknowledgement you deserve. While these methods can sound manipulative on the surface, they're ultimately about reclaiming your sense of worth and ensuring that effort, attention, and emotional investment run both ways in any relationship. We'll also discuss 9 types of individuals who might prove untrustworthy or detrimental to your well-being, emphasizing why it's critical to maintain distance or caution when dealing with them. By understanding both the internal shifts you need to make Part 1 and the external actions you can take, Part 2, you'll be better equipped to navigate complex relationships while preserving your self-esteem and emotional health. Having established the essentials of setting boundaries, walking away, and cultivating an aura of unwavering self-respect, let us shift gears to a more tactical conversation about interpersonal relationships. Specifically, we'll explore 7 psychological methods that can help you shift power dynamics when you feel taken for granted or overlooked. It's worth noting that these methods, when used ethically, are not about manipulating people into situations they don't want to be in. Rather, they are about preserving your own mental well-being and insisting on balanced reciprocity. When you invest wholeheartedly in a relationship, be it romantic or otherwise, you deserve to see a similar commitment from the other side. If that mutual investment is lacking, these strategies serve as a reminder that you have the autonomy to reshape or exit the relationship on your own terms. The first method is to stop over-investing. When you're the one always initiating contact, making plans, and putting in the emotional labor to keep things afloat, you inadvertently establish a pattern where the other person expects you to do all the work. This might satisfy them temporarily, but it leads to a severe imbalance. Such a relationship dynamic is often unsustainable, and it can leave you feeling drained, used, or underappreciated. By pulling back your effort ever so slightly, you create room for them to step up and participate in equal measure. If they show no inclination to do so, it's a signal that the relationship may not be serving your best interests. The second method is related to the first. Don't give your attention away freely. In the social media era, attention is currency. Continuously liking, commenting, or instantaneously responding to someone can project a sense of over-availability. While it might feel natural to be supportive or to show interest, remember that if you hand out unlimited attention without discernment, it ceases to be meaningful. It's not about playing mind games, but about being mindful that your time is limited and precious. If someone has grown used to your immediate attention, pulling back slightly to reassert the value of your responses can sometimes reignite their interest or at least clarify whether they truly value your engagement. The third tactic is to show that you can live happily without them. This aligns closely with the notion of readiness to walk away. When you demonstrate that your joy and contentment do not hinge on another person's presence, you present yourself as a whole individual who is not desperate. It's common to hear phrases like, "Never let someone be your entire world," because if you do, you risk losing your identity. Instead, maintain hobbies, friendships, and personal development goals outside the relationship. By doing so, you convey self-sufficiency. Ironically, this often sparks greater interest from the other person because human nature is drawn to those who possess a life of their own. Continuing with the 7 psychological methods, the fourth principle is to be ready to cut ties if you're treated as unimportant. This doesn't mean you seek out conflict or deliver harsh ultimatums at the drop of a hat. Rather, you maintain an internal resolve that you will not remain in any dynamic where consistent disrespect, neglect, or belittlement is the norm. People sometimes mistake this for cruelty, but it's actually a form of self-preservation. If you never show that you can and will leave an unhealthy relationship, you risk sending the message that poor treatment is acceptable. Once you set the precedent that you have a line others cannot cross, you often see an improvement in how they treat you, or you see them exit your life, which can be a blessing in disguise. The fifth tactic is to stop being too emotionally dependent on the person you're involved with. Emotional dependence manifests as incessantly seeking their reassurance or letting your mood hinge entirely on their actions. While it's natural to be affected by how someone treats you, it's crucial to develop personal coping strategies that don't rely entirely on their presence or approval. Cultivating this inner emotional independence makes you more resilient, ensuring that even if things go sideways, you won't be completely shattered. This kind of strength is deeply attractive because it signals that you are not needy or clingy. Rather, you are seeking a partnership built on mutual respect. The sixth method, stop seeking constant validation. This overlaps with emotional independence, but focuses more on the desire for external approval of your choices, appearance, or worth. If you continually ask questions like, "Do I look okay?" or "Did I do that right?" you position yourself as someone who needs to be rescued from self-doubt. When your identity is too dependent on another person's validation, it puts an unfair burden on them and undermines your own sense of self. Transforming this habit can involve taking small steps like making decisions without consulting them every time, or confidently expressing your opinion, even if you're not 100% sure it will be well received. The seventh and final tactic in this section, don't always show how much you love or care too soon. This point often sparks debate because modern dating culture extols the virtue of vulnerability. Indeed, vulnerability is powerful, but oversharing your deepest emotions prematurely can backfire. Some people, unfortunately, take advantage of emotional openness, turning it into leverage. By pacing how much you reveal, you not only protect yourself from potential misuse of your trust, but also allow the relationship to develop at a balanced tempo. Sharing pieces of yourself over time fosters a foundation of shared experiences and reciprocal interest. Shifting focus. Let's discuss 9 types of individuals you should approach cautiously with your trust. These categories are mentioned to help you be vigilant, not to encourage judging people harshly at first glance. The aim is to preserve your emotional well-being and life balance by recognizing personality traits that often lead to toxic or unproductive relationships. These 9 archetypes include chronic critics, overly friendly people, pleasers, master manipulators, those who lack empathy, poor listeners, perpetual victims, incessant agitators who are always right, toxic individuals who breed negativity, and two-faced acquaintances who smile in your presence but gossip when you turn around. Chronic critics, gossips. These individuals always have something negative to say about others. If they exhibit this behavior around you, it's reasonable to suspect they might treat you similarly when you aren't around. They thrive on negativity and rumor spreading, often to detract from their own insecurities or perceived shortcomings. Maintaining distance prevents your name from becoming the next item on their gossip list. Excessively friendly, outgoing people pleasers. At first, you might find their constant warmth charming. However, if they devote themselves to pleasing everyone at all times, they might lack genuine loyalty. Their priority could be to gain attention or popularity rather than forging deeper, authentic bonds. Exercise caution in how much you invest emotionally in such individuals, because their alliances can shift as quickly as a social breeze. Master manipulators. These are individuals who skillfully shape situations to serve their personal agendas, often at the emotional or financial expense of others. Their tactics can be subtle, gaslighting, guilt-tripping, feigning helplessness, or more overt forms of pressure. If you notice that someone repeatedly uses emotional strings to control your decisions or the course of your interactions, consider re-examining the trust you place in them. Those lacking empathy. Empathy is the cornerstone of humane interactions. Someone who exhibits no remorse when hurting others or cannot comprehend the feelings of those around them can be hazardous to your well-being. Such a person often acts entirely in self-interest, discarding emotional or ethical considerations. Relationships with these individuals can drain you, leaving you questioning your worth and mental stability. Poor listeners. This group pretends to hear you out, but never truly absorbs your words. They might nod and say, "I get it," but in reality, they are disengaged, often preoccupied with their phones, personal agendas, or daydreaming about something else. Over time, trying to communicate with someone who consistently fails to listen can feel like talking to a brick wall. It's a one-sided scenario where your thoughts and experiences hold minimal value. Recognizing these types isn't about labeling people as irredeemable. Everyone has flaws, and we all go through phases. However, if a person persistently displays these behaviors, it's wise to uphold emotional and interpersonal boundaries. Otherwise, you might find yourself entangled in unnecessary drama, negativity, or even psychological harm. By being mindful of these traits, you can better gauge whether an individual is worth your trust or if you'd be better served by interacting with them only at a surface level. Continuing the list of 9 cautionary archetypes. Perpetual victims. These folks are always entangled in some form of crisis and continually proclaim that life is unfair or the universe is against them. While it's entirely possible for someone to experience a run of genuinely tough luck, the perpetual victim rarely learns from mistakes and can drag you into their vortex of negativity. When you offer advice, they may persist in behaviors that keep them stuck. In the end, you risk expending copious amounts of emotional energy on a person who is either unwilling or unable to make the changes necessary for real progress. People who constantly annoy you and believe they are always right. They thrive on subtle provocations, fueling disagreements and leaving you mentally exhausted. Such individuals often couch their words as devil's advocate positions, or claim they just want an honest discussion, but their real motive is to stir agitation or prove their intellectual or moral superiority. The end result is rarely a fruitful conversation. Instead, you feel drained, frustrated, and possibly belittled. Toxic individuals. Here we are dealing with a broad category that includes manipulators, chronic critics, and perpetual victims rolled into one. Toxic individuals sow discord with negativity, sabotage their peers, or erode others' self-esteem for personal gratification. They might frame their actions as genuine concern or just telling the truth when in reality they're tearing people down. Prolonged exposure to such toxicity can diminish your confidence and distort your perception of healthy interactions. Two-faced acquaintances. These are individuals who behave affectionately in your presence but speak poorly about you when you're not around. They might be all smiles and compliments face to face, yet rumors of their disparaging remarks inevitably circle back. While everyone might occasionally vent about someone else out of frustration, two-faced behavior is consistent and malicious, signaling a deep lack of trustworthiness. Identifying and maintaining distance from these 9 archetypes is not about moral superiority or unkindness. It stems from a desire to protect your emotional resilience and ensure you invest your time and energy in relationships that uplift you rather than deplete you. A Stoic perspective would suggest that negative influences, while sometimes unavoidable, should be managed carefully. Life is complicated enough without carrying the additional burden of consistently harmful relationships. Establishing boundaries with these individuals, or even removing them from your life when necessary, is vital for preserving mental and emotional well-being. At this point, you may wonder whether setting these boundaries might cause you to feel isolated or disconnected from social circles. In reality, the opposite is often true. While you might lose superficial relationships, you gain room to nurture deeper, more meaningful connections with people who genuinely respect and value you. It also frees up emotional bandwidth that would have been spent managing the chaos or negativity introduced by these 9 archetypes. With an understanding of both the 7 methods to reset relational dynamics and the 9 cautionary personality types, you might ask, how do I apply these insights in day-to-day life without becoming cynical or manipulative? The key lies in balance. It's one thing to be vigilant and maintain boundaries. It's another to live in a perpetual state of suspicion. The overarching goal here isn't to alienate everyone who shows a red flag. It's to be informed enough to protect your emotional energy and well-being. Whether in friendships, romantic relationships, or professional collaborations, awareness of harmful patterns is the first step toward healthier communication. Let's break down how you can integrate these insights constructively. Self-awareness before labeling others. Look within. Are you over-investing or always seeking validation? Are you playing the perpetual victim in certain areas of your life? Reflecting on your own patterns helps you identify potential vulnerabilities that might attract or enable toxic interactions. If you notice you're quick to over-approve, you can practice giving more measured responses. Or if you realize you rarely say no, you can start setting small boundaries in safe contexts to build confidence. Observe behavior over time. Rather than jumping to conclusions the moment you sense negativity, observe how someone acts across various scenarios. A single instance of gossip might be situational, but a pattern of habitual rumor-spreading signals a deeper issue. Consistency is crucial. Toxic traits often reveal themselves repeatedly, as do signs of genuine warmth and reliability. Gradual testing of trust. If you meet someone new, a friend, colleague, or romantic interest, avoid divulging your most sensitive information or insecurities too quickly. Maintain an initial layer of privacy as you observe how they handle smaller confidences, or if they maintain respect for your boundaries. This strategy safeguards you against potential betrayal from individuals who may initially seem well-meaning, but later prove manipulative. Clarity in communication. When you set a boundary or decline a request, aim to be polite yet firm. If you don't want to hold someone's bag at an event, a brief tactful refusal will suffice. If you're dealing with someone who continually cancels plans, calmly let them know their behavior is problematic. The point is not to spark confrontation, but to demonstrate that your boundaries are non-negotiable. This approach might feel uncomfortable at first, but clarity reduces misunderstandings and upholds respect. Evaluate reciprocation. Healthy relationships involve a back-and-forth exchange of ideas, efforts, and emotional support. If you find yourself putting in the majority of the emotional labor, or consistently meeting the other person's needs, while yours are neglected, it's time to pause and reevaluate. Perhaps you have a discussion about balancing responsibilities, or you consider whether this relationship is genuinely beneficial. You'll discover that truly reciprocal connections rarely require repeated disclaimers about your boundaries, because mutual respect naturally governs the dynamic. Avoid the pendulum swing. One potential pitfall is overcorrecting by becoming cold, distant, or overly harsh. The goal is not to mask sensitivity with cruelty or to emulate a stereotypical bad boy persona. Authentic confidence remains warm, respectful, and empathetic. You can exhibit all these traits without compromising on self-esteem. Striking that balance comes from recognizing that your emotional health matters as much as anyone else's. You can be genuine and giving, yet still protective of your core values. Through consistent practice of these approaches, you gradually develop a heightened awareness of your own psychological boundaries and the types of behaviors you'll accept from others. As you grow more attuned, you can navigate complex social settings, whether that's an office environment rife with politics or a dating scene brimming with players, without losing your sense of self-worth. Such mastery isn't about controlling others. It's about controlling your reactions and choosing the situations in which you invest your time and energy. Another angle to consider is the interplay between self-respect and empathy for others. One might worry that by pulling back or setting firm boundaries, they risk appearing insensitive. Yet in reality, healthy boundaries can enhance empathy. If you are constantly overwhelmed because you can't say no, or you keep a toxic person in your life out of fear, you may eventually become resentful or burnt out. This in turn diminishes your capacity for genuine kindness. By contrast, when you manage your energy wisely and refuse to accept mistreatment, you remain in a healthier emotional state, one that allows you to extend compassion where it is truly warranted. From a psychological standpoint, people who manage their boundaries effectively often have better emotional regulation. They don't suppress their frustrations indefinitely, nor do they explode in anger at minor irritations. Instead, they address issues as they arise calmly but firmly. This steady approach fosters psychological resilience, making it less likely for them to become perpetual victims or chronic complainers. It also sets a powerful example for others who might be struggling with their own boundary issues. Let's also acknowledge the concept of testing in relationships, sometimes known as Detachment tests. While the term itself can sound crude, the underlying idea is that individuals, both men and women, often subconsciously test the resilience or authenticity of potential partners or friends. For instance, a person might see how you react to minor provocations or unpredictable behavior. While no one should intentionally manipulate another, these small tests can reveal how secure you are in your self-image and how you respond to friction. If you demonstrate that you won't crumble at the slightest challenge and also won't overreact, people realize you have an inner fortitude. This stability can lead to deeper trust and a more mature connection. Ultimately, the synergy of applying the 7 psychological methods, pulling back over investment, valuing your attention, demonstrating independence, showing readiness to leave, if disrespected building, emotional self-reliance, avoiding obsessive validation seeking and pacing your emotional revelations with recognizing the 9 untrustworthy archetypes can significantly elevate the quality of your interpersonal life. You can engage more confidently, avoiding pitfalls that lead to heartache or exhaustion. When you stand firm in your self-worth, you develop the clarity to discern which relationships nurture you and which ones slowly chip away at your well-being. In Part 3, we'll build on the insights gleaned from Parts 1 and 2 by highlighting 5 crucial things never to reveal too early in a relationship or under precarious circumstances. This final section will wrap up how to protect your emotional sanctuary while still remaining open to forming authentic, fulfilling connections. Before moving on, let's take a moment to review the core message of Part 2. You have the right and the responsibility to curate the relationships in your life in a manner that safeguards your mental and emotional health. The 7 psychological methods are not designed to turn you into a detached, cynical manipulator. Rather, they're tools for ensuring that your altruism is not perpetually exploited. Balancing empathy with self-preservation allows for healthier, more meaningful connections because the respect and caring become reciprocal rather than one-sided. Pulling back over investment prevents scenarios where you're doing 90% of the relational work. Not giving attention too freely reminds you that your focus is valuable. People should appreciate it rather than take it for granted. Demonstrating happiness without them highlights your independence, deterring those who might otherwise prey on a lonely mindset. Being ready to cut ties if undervalued underscores non-negotiable self-worth. Reducing emotional dependence ensures your life doesn't revolve solely around someone else's responses or approval. Ceasing the constant quest for validation builds inner confidence. Avoiding premature declarations of love or devotion protects you from manipulative individuals and ensures mutual emotional pacing. Paired with an awareness of the 9 personality types to avoid or handle with caution, these methods reinforce the boundary between healthy compromise and self-compromise. None of this is about punishing people or demanding unrealistic standards. It's about requiring the bare minimum of respect and reciprocity that every balanced human interaction should inherently have. The ultimate goal is a life where you can give love, attention, and kindness freely, but not blindly. You have the ability to shield your well-being while still being open and caring to those who prove deserving. In Part 3, you'll see how these foundational attitudes connect with the personal information you choose to share in a relationship, particularly the timing of when and how you reveal the more sensitive aspects of your life. Having covered the basics of healthy confidence, boundary setting, and the importance of cautious engagement in Part 1 and Part 2, We now turn to 5 critical pieces of personal information best kept private until a relationship has reached a stage of mutual trust and respect. While modern society frequently encourages radical transparency, encouraging us to lay all our cards on the table in the name of authenticity, it is equally important to protect yourself from those who have not yet demonstrated the emotional maturity or genuine care to handle that information responsibly. Don't let physical attraction blind you. This seems self-evident, but is deceptively challenging in practice. Physical allure can be so potent that individuals overlook glaring red flags such as dishonesty, hostility, or extreme emotional volatility because they're smitten by appearance or charmed by superficial traits. This cautionary note doesn't mean looks don't matter. It only implies that they shouldn't be the sole criterion upon which you judge a person's suitability for a closer bond. Pay attention to how they act, not just how they look. Avoid proclaiming love too easily. Love is a serious matter. When you declare deep emotions prematurely, especially if you haven't had ample time to experience each other's strengths, weaknesses, and true characters, you risk becoming vulnerable to manipulative or abusive behaviors. A quick, intense infatuation might lead you to ignore your own boundaries as well as clear signals that a relationship isn't viable long-term. Pace yourself truly. Knowing someone and loving them for who they are takes time and mutual exploration. Never sacrifice your happiness completely just to please them. While healthy relationships do involve compromise, there is a fine line between collaborating and capitulating. If you find yourself repeatedly shelving your own ambitions, friendships, or hobbies solely to accommodate another's needs, you are gradually relinquishing the very elements that make you unique and valuable. The danger lies in losing your sense of identity, making it nearly impossible to retain the self-assuredness that fosters respect and attraction. By learning when to remain guarded, particularly early in a relationship, you safeguard not only your heart, but also your mental well-being. Contrary to what some believe, strategic withholding of personal details isn't about deception. It's about waiting to see if the person you're investing in merits the level of intimacy you wish to share. In an ideal world, everyone would handle vulnerability with care. But in reality, not everyone is equipped or willing to do so. Exercising discernment ensures that you reveal more of yourself only to those who demonstrate a capacity to treat that information with empathy and respect. Continuing the list of 5 things not to share. Too soon, don't be fooled by sweet words. We live in an age where people can master the art of verbal seduction. Whether it's poetic flattery, grandiose promises, or future-faking words can be a cheap commodity. A person might say anything if they believe it will gain your trust or affection. Let actions speak louder. Observe consistency. Do they follow through on what they promise? Do they treat you well consistently, even after the initial honeymoon phase of getting to know each other has worn off? Constant compliments can feel great at the start, but if there's no substance behind them, you risk being emotionally exploited. If you find someone's words enchanting, but their actions contradictory, it's a clear sign you need to slow down and reassess. Never share your darkest past too soon. Every individual carries some form of emotional baggage or painful memories. Perhaps it's a traumatic experience, a tumultuous family history, or a deeply personal regret. While mutual vulnerability can indeed strengthen a bond, revealing your most painful secrets, prematurely can leave you unprotected, especially if the relationship doesn't progress as you anticipated. Some individuals, unfortunately, exploit vulnerabilities as a tool for manipulation, ridicule, or psychological leverage. Give the connection time to prove it's built on mutual trust, empathy, and authenticity before you expose those sensitive chapters of your life. Ultimately, if the relationship is healthy and has longevity, there will be ample opportunity to share these parts of yourself later, when a deeper bond and mutual respect have been established. Putting these 5 cautions into practice protects you from heartbreak and emotional turmoil. It provides a buffer against individuals who may only be interested in superficial or exploitative relationships. Moreover, it fosters a more deliberate, thoughtful approach to bonding, giving you space to evaluate whether the other person is truly in it for the long haul. If they become impatient or try to pressure you into revealing more than you're comfortable with at any stage, it's a potential red flag regarding their respect for boundaries. Yet this doesn't imply you should be paranoid or perpetually suspicious. The key lies in pacing and discernment. Genuine caring people will typically respect your need for gradual revelation. They recognize that trust is a currency earned over time. Conversely, someone who insists on knowing every intimate detail of your life from day one might either be too emotionally intense or have ulterior motives. You're well within your rights to request more time to gauge how they handle smaller disclosures before giving them the full picture of your struggles or past. The broader point here ties back to everything discussed in parts 1 and 2. You owe it to yourself to safeguard your emotional core. When you combine this prudence in self-disclosure with the strategies for boundary setting and the cautionary recognition of certain personality types, you form a formidable shield against most forms of interpersonal harm. Far from shutting you off, this approach actually frees you to be authentic in the right circumstances, with the right people, at the right time. In a world that frequently celebrates oversharing social media updates on every bite of food, reality shows about private lives, and the constant feed of personal details, it's a radical act to preserve some of your mystery and protect your heart. Remember, authentic connections flourish, not because you threw all your cards on the table in the first meeting, but because you revealed yourself organically in increments that foster genuine understanding and respect. Let's also touch on the psychological implications of oversharing too soon. When you give someone extensive details about your vulnerabilities, goals, or emotional scars without a solid foundation of mutual trust, you're effectively handing them a key to your emotional state. If the relationship is unequal in terms of emotional investment, this can embolden the other person to manipulate you even if unintentionally. For example, they might leverage your insecurities during an argument or use sensitive information to guilt you into decisions that don't align with your best interests. Moreover, oversharing can create a false sense of intimacy, leading you to believe you have formed a deep connection when you've simply exchanged personal stories. True closeness is multi-layered, requiring compatibility, shared values, consistent effort, and genuine support over time. By pacing how you reveal your inner world, you ensure that you and the other person build a meaningful bond rather than a facade of closeness that may crumble under stress. From a self-care perspective, gradually revealing personal details allows you to maintain a healthier emotional equilibrium. If the dynamic sours early on, you can step away with minimal emotional fallout. Conversely, if the relationship continues to grow positively, you have the luxury of unveiling more intimate parts of your life in an environment that feels safe and encouraging. This naturally fosters a deeper form of trust. When combined with the principles outlined in parts 1 and 2, cultivating self-assurance, being ready to walk away if needed, setting solid boundaries, and recognizing manipulative or toxic behaviors, this cautious approach to sharing personal details can significantly reduce the risk of heartbreak. It also sets the tone for a respectful dynamic where each party values the other's privacy and the deliberate act of opening up. Ultimately, retaining control over how and when you disclose your story is not about secrecy. It's about ensuring that your truth is revealed in a manner conducive to emotional safety and mutual respect. To illustrate how these principles might play out in practice, consider a hypothetical scenario. You've begun seeing someone who shows potential decent conversation, shared humor, common interests. They quickly share a sob story from their past, painting themselves as the constant victim of life's circumstances. Touched by their openness, you feel compelled to reciprocate, so you divulge your own painful experiences right away. In the emotional momentum, you both bond over these disclosures. However, as the weeks pass, you notice red flags they cancel on you. Frequently, their mood swings are intense and they show little interest in hearing about your everyday joys or challenges. Their focus remains on how life continues to deal them a bad hand. Now all those vulnerable details you shared hang uncomfortably between you. You sense they might use them against you in arguments or belittle your coping strategies, especially if they become defensive about their own issues. Because you felt rushed into an emotional closeness that wasn't matched by consistent, respectful behavior, you're left on precarious ground, torn between the initial perceived connection and the reality of the dynamic that's unfolded. This scenario underscores the wisdom of gradual disclosure. Rather than delving into your deepest secrets on the second or third date or chat, you might have tested smaller levels of trust first. You could have observed how they handle everyday disappointments or listened to how they talk about others who have confided in them. By taking that slower path, you'd have had a better chance of recognizing potential issues before exposing your most sensitive self. It's also worth noting how your personal sense of boundary and self-worth influences this process. If you have embraced the strategies from parts 1 and 2, you'd be less likely to feel pressured into revealing more than you're comfortable with. When someone tries to push you to talk about something you're not ready to share, your healthy response might be, "I appreciate your interest in getting to know me, but I'm not ready to go into that yet. I'd like us to spend more time building trust first." A person who genuinely cares will respect that statement. A person seeking to exploit or manipulate might show frustration or attempt guilt-tripping, revealing their true intentions. As this interplay unfolds, you'll see how crucial it is to keep your emotional reservoir guarded until you're reasonably sure the other party has earned your trust. You'll become more adept at reading not just words, but actions, consistency, and patterns of behavior that signal either genuine compassion or potential red flags. By doing so, you don't wall yourself off from human connection, but rather you ensure that when you do open up, it's in a relationship environment that supports and values you. In addition to relationship settings, the principles of guarded disclosure apply to other areas of life as well. Friendships, family gatherings, and even workplace environments. For instance, if you have a workplace rival who thrives on office politics, oversharing about your personal life or ambitions might give them ammunition. Instead of becoming paranoid, you can choose a more measured approach. Share only what's appropriate and maintain a professional boundary. Another angle is social media. Many people broadcast their every move, where they eat, how they feel, who they date, and sometimes even extremely personal anecdotes. This can inadvertently draw the attention of manipulative individuals, and it can also undermine your own sense of privacy. Though it's a personal decision, some find that keeping certain experiences offline preserves a sense of intimacy and allows for genuine connections to grow away from the public gaze. All of these strategies pivot on a single underlying principle: your emotional well-being matters. It's easy to get swept up in modern norms that glorify full exposure or instant intimacy. But real, lasting relationships, whether friendly, familial, professional, or romantic, are built on mutual respect, considerate pacing, and shared values. Approaching relationships with a sense of self-protection balanced by empathy and openness ensures you give yourself the best chance for meaningful, healthy connections. Indeed, trust is more precious when it's earned rather than given away indiscriminately. By reserving your most intimate disclosures for those who demonstrate genuine care and consistency, you simultaneously elevate your own sense of self-worth and deepen the bond with the individual who has proven deserving of your vulnerability. Over time, this leads to stronger, more stable relationships, free from the nagging insecurity that comes from rushing into emotional depths without a firm foundation. Summarizing Part 3. The 5 cautionary points avoid being blinded by physical attraction. Refrain from premature declarations of love. Never sacrifice your happiness just to please them. Don't be taken in by superficial sweet talk, and keep your darkest past private until trust is established, are vital measures for safeguarding your inner world. These guidelines don't aim to kill romantic spontaneity or hamper emotional connection. Rather, they help ensure that when you do invest your emotions, you do so in a manner conducive to long-term well-being and respect. If we connect this back to the overarching themes of Parts 1 and 2, the synergy becomes evident. By consistently practicing boundary setting, discerning which psychological archetypes to avoid, and knowing the right moment to reveal deeper aspects of yourself, you position yourself in a space of emotional resilience. You're no longer reliant on an external source of validation, nor are you at the mercy of manipulative or toxic individuals who might take advantage of naive transparency. While love, friendship, and human connection can be some of the greatest joys in life, they can also be sources of immense pain if approached recklessly. A balanced approach, one that protects you while still allowing genuine intimacy to blossom, paves the way for healthier, happier relationships. You'll likely discover that the individuals who truly wish to know you and build something meaningful with you will appreciate and respect your caution. Those who are only interested in quick emotional gratification or exploitative scenarios may be frustrated by your boundaries, thereby revealing their unsuitability for a deeper bond. As you navigate the complexities of human interaction, remember that these practices aren't static rules meant to limit joy or spontaneous connection. They are guardrails. They allow you to venture forth confidently, knowing you have a safety net to keep you from falling too far when you notice red flags or realize a situation might not be in your best interest. An approach that balances open-heartedness with discernment ensures that you cherish the positive experiences that arise from genuine relationships, while also minimizing the risks posed by untrustworthy or incompatible individuals. In the grand tapestry of social and romantic interactions, self-respect remains the consistent thread weaving everything together. From Part 1's emphasis on developing a confident mindset and setting the tone for how others treat you to Part 2's practical strategies for re-establishing balanced relationships and identifying toxic personalities, to Part 3's cautionary steps about sharing personal details, every stage underscores the importance of your own psychological health. When you respect yourself, others are more likely to mirror that respect. When you set clear boundaries and stick to them, you cultivate an environment where genuine connection can truly flourish. The key takeaway across all 3 parts is that Healthy relationships, romantic, platonic, or professional, thrive on mutual understanding, respect, and a balanced exchange of effort. Far from turning relationships into a calculated game, these guidelines help you filter out those who consistently fail, to meet you halfway there by allowing your emotional energy to be invested in connections that have real potential. While these teachings might feel like common sense, the speed and complexity of modern life can lead many of us to forget them in the rush of new interactions or the fervor of strong physical and emotional attraction. Remember that none of this is about detaching from the beauty of human connection or living in fear. Instead, it's a framework that ensures your well-being remains central. By being mindful of how you present yourself, understanding the essential roles of boundaries, saying no when necessary, not rushing into declarations of love, and carefully revealing personal stories, you bolster your resilience. You also increase the likelihood that when love or friendship truly takes root, it will be a secure bond, untainted by manipulation or codependency. This balanced approach to life's most significant relationships ultimately enriches every area: career, personal growth, and emotional fulfillment. By internalizing these principles, you position yourself to stand confidently in any social scenario, from meeting new acquaintances at a party to negotiating crucial partnerships at work. You transform from being someone who merely reacts to external demands to someone who proactively shapes interactions in a way that honors both your dignity and the dignity of those around you. In essence, genuine confidence, boundary awareness, caution in sharing personal truths, and discernment in who you trust form a powerful synergy. This synergy safeguards you against needless heartache and exploitation, while still leaving room for the very best parts of human connection: love, empathy, shared joy, and authentic companionship to flourish. As we wrap up this insightful exploration into relationship dynamics, boundary setting, and the empowering psychology behind genuine confidence, it's clear that the true power to transform your connections lies within you. When you honor your own value, set clear boundaries, and choose carefully how and when you reveal your deeper self, you naturally command respect and cultivate richer, more authentic relationships. Life becomes less about constantly pleasing others and more about mutual growth, deep connection, and genuine fulfillment. Imagine the positive ripple effect of embracing these powerful strategies: better emotional well-being, stronger friendships, healthier romantic bonds, and even improved career success. It's all possible when you prioritize self-respect, authenticity, and mindful communication. Now, I want to hear your thoughts. What was your biggest aha moment? Which strategy are you excited to apply first? Share your experiences and opinions in the comments below. Let's open a conversation that can inspire and empower each other. Your voice matters, and together, we'll continue to explore life-changing ideas right here on this channel.